Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive you're not going to want to miss. Today we're going to be talking about something unexpected in the Harry Potter universe. Squibs. You know those non-magical folks born into magical families? Well, get this, their stories actually go way beyond Hogwarts and into the world of rugby.
Oh, yeah. It's a fascinating connection.
It really is. And to help me break down all the details, I brought in an expert. So we've got a YouTube video packed with info and this really interesting text snippet that reads like something straight out of Hogwarts. A history. Both sources talk about squibs.
Huh.
But our focus today is going to be on this guy named Angus Buchanan. I don't know about you, but I've never even heard of him.
Oh, he's a fascinating character. His story goes from family drama to a really surprising place.
Well, let's get into it then. But before we do,
Yeah.
can you just give everyone a little background on squibs in general? I mean, we know Filch and Mrs. Fig, but there's not a lot of detail in the books.
Yeah, they're kind of this background element, but when you really think about it, squibs actually challenge the very foundation of the magical world, you know? Imagine growing up surrounded by magic, seeing your family do all these incredible things, but you just can't. It's got to be tough.
Yeah, it's got to be like a constant reminder of what you're not.
Exactly.
So it must make for some really interesting family dynamics.
Well, absolutely.
We see that a bit with Filch and Mrs. Fig
Right.
living on the fringes of the wizarding world, but they still seem to find a place in it.
Right, and that's actually what makes Angus Buchanan's story so different. He didn't just exist in the shadows of magic, he carved out his own path. And by doing that, he kind of forced the wizarding world to confront their own biases.
Sounds like we need to start at the beginning.
Yeah, let's do it.
Who is Angus Buchanan?
All right, so picture it 19th century Scotland, a time when magic was even more hush-hush than it is today. And in this time, we have the Buchanan family, a big, boisterous bunch, known for their tempers and even stronger magic. They have 11 kids, all expected to follow in the family tradition, except Angus.
The squib of the family? I bet that wasn't easy.
Not at all. His father was this hardcore traditionalist, you know the type. To him, Angus was a disgrace.
Oh, wow.
But his siblings were fiercely protective. They came up with all these schemes to hide the fact that Angus couldn't do magic.
What kind of schemes?
They even forged a Hogwarts acceptance letter for him.
No way.
Oh yeah, serious dedication.
But they couldn't hide it forever, right? He'd have to go to Hogwarts eventually and face the music.
Well, about that, they took it even further. They bought him a wand in Diagon Alley and snuck him into the sorting ceremony.
Wait, the sorting ceremony.
Yep.
They let him sit under the hat.
Can you imagine? The Great Hall is buzzing. First year is all nervous and excited to be sorted. And then there's Angus, just this regular kid in a sea of magical potential.
And then the hat is placed on his head.
The tension must have been so thick you could cut it with a knife.
Yeah.
And in this really polite but totally awkward way, the hat announces that Angus, well, Angus doesn't have any magic.
Oh, man.
Humiliation for Angus, fury from his father. I'm sure there were a lot of confused whispers from the other kids. It's a huge turning point in his story. Total rejection.
So what happens to Angus after all that? He's just 11
Yeah.
and basically disowned by his family.
It's heartbreaking,
Yeah.
but it's also a turning point for him. He leaves Hogwarts and walks all the way to Edinburgh, determined to make it on his own. He finds work as a laborer and is taken in by a kind Muggle couple. It's a totally new life for him.
Away from the magical world.
Exactly.
And this is where the rugby comes in.
Yes.
This is the 19th century, right? So rugby is just starting to get popular.
Exactly. And Angus, with his build
Yeah.
and, a childhood spent dodging hexes from his father, he's a natural athlete.
Makes sense.
He dives headfirst into the sport, finds a place where he belongs.
A place he never really had in the wizarding world.
You got
It's like his being a squib fueled his determination.
in a way, yeah.
And that determination leads him to a pretty amazing moment.
Oh, yeah.
1871, the first international rugby match.
Scotland versus England.
Yep.
And guess who scores the first try?
Angus.
Angus.
That must have been incredible.
It was. His siblings were even there in the stands, secretly defying their dad to support him.
Oh, wow.
The Squib, the one everyone thought was a failure in the magical world, scores the first try in a sport that would go on to captivate the world. It's a victory not just for Angus, but for anyone who's ever been told they're not good enough.
I love it. It's an incredible story.
Yeah.
But it sounds like there's a lot more to uncover.
Oh, yeah. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, then let's take a break and we'll come back to unpack all the amazing connections and twists in part 2 of this deep dive.
So Angus's story is inspiring, right? Like a testament to the human spirit.
It really is.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how we even define success.
Mhm.
Speaking unexpected, though, This is where the deep dive gets really fascinating.
Oh,
Angus's rugby victory wasn't just personal. It sparked this chain reaction throughout the entire wizarding world.
I know, right? Wizards with their magic and often saw Muggle sports as kind of boring, but for some reason rugby got them hooked.
So wizards who can fly on broomsticks and make things disappear got obsessed with this muddy, rough-and-tumble Muggle sport.
The irony is amazing, isn't it?
Totally. What happened?
Well, this fascination led to the creation of a secret society.
Wait, a secret society all about rugby?
Yep. It was called the Wizarding Supporters of Scottish Rugby Union, or WSSRU for short.
What do they do?
Well, they supported the Scottish team, of course, but the sources hint that they might have gone a little beyond just cheering, you know?
Like what?
There are these whispers about subtle magical influence.
You mean like cheating?
Maybe. Maybe even smuggling squibs onto the team.
Wait, Squib's playing on the Scottish rugby team. Wouldn't that break the statute of secrecy?
That's the big question, isn't it? The statute is very clear, no meddling in Muggle affairs. But the WSSRU, they were so passionate about rugby that they might have bent the rules a bit.
How could they even pull that off? Wouldn't Muggles notice something strange?
It's a good question. Think about it trying to hide a squib's lack of magic from teammates, coaches, medical staff. It would be incredibly difficult.
What about other magical communities?
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other can of worms. If other countries found out, there could be international magical conflict.
The sources even mention some names.
Right.
Kelly Brown, Jim Hamilton, Stuart Hogg.
They might be these undercover squib players.
Is there any proof?
It's all circumstantial.
Like what?
Well, Kelly Brown is rumored to be related to Lavender Brown from Hogwarts. And Jim Hamilton, well, he looks a lot like Hagrid.
Really?
Big, imposing, kind of clumsy off the pitch. As for Stuart Hogg, well, let's just say enough said.
It sounds like they're practically daring us to figure it out.
Maybe they are.
This all brings up a big question, though. Even if the WSSRU meant well, is it ever okay to use magic to mess with the Muggle world? Even for something like rugby?
That's the ethical dilemma at the heart of all this. Angus showed us that squibs can do amazing things in the Muggle world. But does that make it right for wizards to give them a magical boost?
It's a slippery slope.
Exactly.
Where you draw the line.
And remember, interfering with Muggles has always been a risky thing in Harry Potter. The Ministry trying to control the media of Voldemort and all the chaos he caused. Even with good intentions, magic can be dangerous.
It's like a reminder that any kind of power has to be used responsibly.
Absolutely.
Angus's story, it's inspiring, but it's also a warning. He found success by embracing who he was not, by taking magical shortcuts.
And maybe that's what the WSSRU missed. Instead of trying to rig the game, they could have supported squib athletes on their own merits, celebrated their achievements on a level playing field.
It's all about respect, right?
Yeah.
The magical and Muggle worlds, they exist together, but they have their own rules.
Yeah, crossing those lines can have consequences.
And that's what makes Angus's legacy so important. He didn't just break records in rugby. He broke down barriers between these two worlds.
His autobiography, My Life as a Squib, it was huge.
Really?
It challenged how wizards saw squibs, showed them that they were more than just magical misfits.
His story reminds us that real strength comes from being yourself, not trying to fit in. And that's a message everyone can relate to, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We all have those squib moments when we feel different or like we don't belong.
It's true. And Angus shows us that those moments can be a good thing.
They can help us grow and find our own way.
And to have the courage to go after what we want, even when people doubt us. Like Angus, he was disowned, ridiculed, but he never gave up.
He didn't let anything stop him.
And his story also shows us how important perspective is. Wizards thought Muggle sports were silly, but then Angus comes along and changes everything.
He opened their eyes to a whole new world.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that we can learn from anything and anyone, even from things we think are beneath us.
Stepping outside our comfort zone can teach us so much.
It can.
And that brings us back to the WSSRU. What do you make of their whole secret operation?
Well, their methods were questionable, but they were passionate about rugby and they wanted to help squib athletes. It shows this desire to find common ground between two different worlds.
So even if they went about it the wrong way, their hearts were in the right place.
Maybe. It's like even in the most complicated situations, things aren't always black and white. There's always more to the story.
And that's what makes these deep dives so great. We start with a simple topic like squibs, and we end up talking about ethics, secret societies, and how the magical and Muggle worlds collide.
There's magic everywhere, even in a rugby match.
Exactly. We've covered a lot today, from a squib's journey of self-discovery to a secret rugby society. The Harry Potter world is full of surprises. But before we go, I want to go back to Angus for a minute. His story might be from the 1800s, but it feels really relevant today, don't you think?
Absolutely. His journey speaks to anyone who's felt like an outsider, born into a world where you don't quite fit in.
It would be so easy to get bitter, to define yourself by what you lack.
It would be.
But Angus didn't do that.
He embraced his situation and found success in a totally different world.
He carved his own path and proved that real strength is about being yourself.
And having the courage to chase your dreams no matter what.
Even when you face rejection and doubt.
Exactly. Angus's own father disowned him. His peers made fun of him. But he never gave up on himself.
It's amazing. He challenged expectations not with magic, but with hard work and determination.
He showed that success isn't about what you're born with, but about resilience and perseverance.
And about being open to new possibilities.
Right.
His story also shows us how important perspective is.
How?
Wizards look down on Muggle sports.
Oh yeah, they thought they were pointless.
But then Angus proves them wrong.
He showed them there's beauty and complexity in a world they ignored.
It's like a reminder that we can learn from the most unexpected places.
And that getting out of our comfort zone can lead to new understanding.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into squibs and rugby, I want to leave you with a question. If you were in the Harry Potter world facing the same challenges as Angus, what would you do? What hidden talents would you find?
It makes you think, doesn't it? We all have our squib moments. Times when we don't feel good enough.
But maybe like Angus, those moments can help us grow and find our own way to shine.
Maybe they can.
Remember, true magic isn't always about spells and potions. It's about embracing who you are and challenging limits.
And finding joy in the unexpected.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
Who knows what amazing stories you'll find.
Until next time. So we've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
We have.
From Angus's journey to the WSSRU and their secret shenanigans, it's clear that the Harry Potter world is full of surprises. But before we wrap things up, I want to go back to Angus for a second. His story, it might be from the 1800s, but it feels super relevant today, don't you think?
Oh, totally. I mean, think about it. Angus's journey, it really speaks to anyone who's ever felt like an outsider.
Yeah, like you don't belong.
Exactly. Like he was born into this world where magic is everything, and he didn't have it.
Right. It would be so easy to just give up.
Oh, absolutely. To be bitter and resentful, define yourself by what you're not.
But Angus didn't. He embraced his situation.
He did.
And he found success in a totally different world. He carved his own path and proved that real strength comes from being yourself.
And having the courage to pursue your passions.
Even when you face rejection and doubt.
Angus's own father disowned him.
Right.
People made fun of him, but he never gave up on himself.
He didn't let anything stop him.
He challenged expectations not with magic or anything, but with hard work and determination.
He showed that success isn't about what you're born with. It's about resilience and perseverance.
And a willingness to try new things.
To embrace the unknown.
Exactly.
His story also shows us how important perspective is.
Oh, yeah, how so?
Well, the Wizards, they look down on Muggle sports.
They thought they were a joke.
But then Angus comes along and changes everything.
He showed them a whole new world, a world they completely dismissed.
Exactly.
It's a good reminder that we can learn from anything, even things we think are beneath us.
We can always find new understanding if we're open to it.
We can.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into squibs and rugby, I want to leave everyone with a question. If you were in Angus's shoes, facing those same challenges, what would you do?
What path would you forge?
What hidden talents would you discover?
Something to think about, isn't it?
We all have our own squib moments, times when we feel like we don't measure up.
We do.
But maybe, just maybe, those moments are actually opportunities for growth, for self-discovery.
For finding our own unique way to shine.
Exactly. Remember, true magic isn't always about spells and potions. It's about embracing who you are, challenging limitations, and finding joy in the unexpected.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
You never know what amazing stories you'll uncover.
That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time,